right, here we go. Moment of truth. And then we got these really bad windstorms that would come through. Here's the thing though. Some mines would have tracks like this that run all the way up to the front door so you can get right out. Other ones would have elevators you would have to take up and down. And so January would haul this to an elevator, and then we'd load it in the elevator and take the elevator out.
Oh.
Now that's convenient for us so that we don't have to drag it around.
But then January.
Yeah, how does January get out of the mine? Does January get out of the mine?
Is she down there the whole time?
Willie wanders, here we go, learning things we didn't know. With PT by his side, let's take a fun-filled ride. Willie wanders, come along, join the adventure, sing the song. History is science all around, in Willie's world fun's always found.
Those are grasshoppers. Is there a few grasshoppers or a lot of grasshoppers?
There's a boatload of grasshoppers.
There are so many grasshoppers. Now grasshoppers, they actually will plant their eggs in the dirt, and if it gets too wet, those eggs get moldy and there's no more grasshoppers. They don't, like those ones won't hatch.
Yeah.
So when it's just the right dryness, they'll hatch like crazy.
Yeah.
So you got all these grasshoppers in the 1930s. They're going around. What do grasshoppers eat?
They eat grass, maybe.
Grass, plants?
Yeah.
They're herbivores. They'll eat plants.
Yeah.
So they would go around from farm to farm and they would eat what little bit was growing there.
Wow.
And when they ran out of plants, as you can see, they would turn sometimes to clothes.
Yeah.
Now, what are these clothes made out of that might want the grasshoppers to eat them?
Cotton, maybe?
Absolutely, cotton. So these were cotton clothes which are made from the plants. So these grasshoppers are actually being very inventive and they're finding food wherever they can.
Wow, so that shows not only the farmers are losing things to rely on, but so are the grasshoppers.
Yeah.
These farmers could not catch a break. No crops, a bunch of dirt, and then all of a sudden a plague of grasshoppers is showing up on their turf.
Absolutely, the grasshoppers were so bad that if we had had the technology, if we had had radar,
Yeah.
we actually would have seen the swarms moving around because they were so big. There was billions, with a B, billions of grasshoppers.
That is a lot of grasshoppers.
Now, do you think that the farmers like the grasshoppers eating all their crops?
I wouldn't, definitely not.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
So they tried to find a way to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so that's what we got over here. We actually have some poison bait they would put out for the grasshoppers, and then the spray that they had. They would spray this in the air to try to get rid of the grasshoppers. Last thing I want to show you before we head out is this thing right here. This is an example of what these grasshopper situation looked like.
Jeez, man.
Where do you think that is?
Is that in front of a bank or some sort of downtown building?
That's in downtown Colorado Springs. That's like an hour away from us at the History Colorado Center. And it was so thick that it was like you were walking on a carpet.
I'm getting itchy looking at it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. What happens if you step on those grasshoppers?
They'll probably start coming at you.
Absolutely, they'll start jumping on you. Hopefully
Yeah.
they won't start eating your clothes, but they might. But
Yeah.
you also might squish some, and you got bug guts everywhere. Do you think it's a very sanitary time?
No, definitely not.
All in all, not a very great time to be alive, very challenging.
Yeah, I
and
can
then
see
back
that.
here, you can actually see what the Dust Bowl looked like, what these dust storms looked like.
That's a big dust storm.
So bad sometimes, it would block out the sun. There was
Wow.
actually a day in 1935 called Black Sunday, and it was the worst dust storm of the entire Dust Bowl.
Yikes.
We actually have this simulator house right here that you can see it, and maybe we'll run in there in a little bit.
So guys, we just learned a ton of cool stuff at that coal mine exhibit just right there. But I think we're gonna move into a little bit more mountain territory to look at the ski stuff. Is that right?
Absolutely. So we were just down in Southwest Colorado talking about that silver mining. We're actually gonna come over here into more of the mountain area so we can go to Steamboat Springs and learn a little bit about skiing.
Yeah.
So in Steamboat Springs, we actually have a very special type of skiing. It's not just downhill skiing, it's actually jumping. There was this gentleman who came over from Europe, and he brought with him this whole new way of skiing, which was to launch yourself off of the mountain and see how far you could jump, which a lot of people just weren't doing here. But
No.
they found they were really interested in this, and it was a lot of fun for those of them that could land it.
So guys, we just wrapped up some of the exhibits upstairs, and I think we made it to our next one. And look, Luke is here with us too. Can you tell me about this exhibit right here?
Absolutely, I'd love to tell you about this. Welcome to Destination Colorado. This exhibit is going to tell us a little bit about why people came out to Colorado, as well as what life was like in a farming community out on the Eastern Plains.
And this would have been before the Dust Bowl, right?
This would have been before the Dust Bowl. This is going to be back in 1920s, and actually the story starts way before then. If you want to come over here and look at this map, I'll tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
So, right here, we've got a map. What's this a map of?
This is, oh, well, this is Colorado.
Yep.
This is Denver, where we are right now.
Absolutely.
And then I think to the northeast that's Kyoto.
Absolutely. So Kyoto is a little farming town that we're going to talk about. Kyoto is a very small town. In fact, at the most, Kyoto only ever had about 120 people.
Oh my gosh,
Right?
that's very small.
I bet that your school has more people than that. I bet that PB's school has more people than that.
Probably has like 10 times more than that.
Right? Absolutely. So, Colorado. We're going to go way back in time. We're not going to just start in the 1920s. We're actually going to go back to 1846. Now,
1846.
in 1846, there's this law passed.
Okay.
This law passed by Abraham Lincoln. This law is called the Homestead Act.
Hey kids, have you ever imagined what it would be like to build your own house on a big piece of land? Well, over 150 years ago, the U.S. government made that possible with something called the Homestead Act. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act, which gave people a chance to own 160 acres of land. But there was a catch. You had to live on the land, farm it, and make improvements like building a house. Families would move to new areas, build homes, and grow crops. After 5 years, if they had done a good job, the land was theirs, free. So, the next time you think about pioneers or building something new, remember the Homestead Act, where big dreams started with just a piece of land.
Hey, are you enjoying this video? Well, we have a lot more of these with no ads on getgoalie.com. That's also where we sell the coolest kids tablet. Check us out at getgoalie.com, and there's no ads.
Absolutely. It seems like a rad deal.
Yeah.
So we've got all these people that are starting to come out here in 1864. Now, how are people getting out here in the 1860s?
Was there a railroad back then?
There actually wasn't a railroad yet. What
wow.
there was, though, is there was wagons and horses and things like that, and they would start riding those out there. Then they started building the railroad. Now, railroad's a real game changer, right?
Yeah.
Now you can start moving people like crazy across the country. You can also move cattle.
Yeah, materials and all that stuff too.
Yeah, what are some things that farmers might need to move out here?
They would definitely need some seeds. They would definitely need maybe some sacks to hold all their seeds. And yeah, just general farming stuff. Maybe like some farming equipment, things like hoes, things like rakes, maybe stuff like that.
Absolutely, and all of that can happen through the railroad. So they have all of this stuff out here. And Kyoto's pretty special because even though it was very small, there was actually a rail line that ran right through the little town of Kyoto.
Oh, wow.
Right? So in this exhibit, you're going to get to see all sorts of different stuff of what it was like living in a town like this. You get to see a general store at the school, maybe even get to do a little bit of ranching and deal with some animals. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happens whenever farming starts being a less good time during the Dust Bowl out
Yeah,
here.
well, let's get going. I'm excited to see about all the different types of farming stuff that they
Let's
have.
do it, man. So where do you want to start?
I'm thinking right here, the general store. Oh yeah, they probably had one of these. They could sell all their stuff. Hey, look, I can even go behind here and venue some things. Look, welcome to my shop. What types of soup and other farming things would you like?
I mean, I would love to have some coffee and some grape nuts if I can get those from you, sir.
Oh, well, I'll get that for you right here. Here is your grape nuts, sir.
Perfect.
And then, let me find that coffee. Coffee, right here. How much would that be? Let me see. That'll be 15 cents.
15 cents? Oh my goodness, I forgot mine at home. Can you write it on an IOU and I'll pay you later?
Yeah, sure. I'll do that for you.
Perfect.
Maybe you can get me back in some eggs or something like that.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and take it for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, general stores like this would have been crucial in small towns like this because at 120 people, do you think they had King Soopers everywhere?
Oh, no.
No, absolutely not. You'd have like a store that you could go to. You would establish a relationship with the person. Sometimes, yeah, you would buy things on IOUs and they would know that you would get them back because everyone knew everyone.
Yeah, if you don't get me back, I'm seeing you tomorrow. I know where you live. But
Exactly. You're gonna see me when I drop my kid off at the school next door.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bad time if I'm not making sure I'm following through, right?
Yeah.
Or what is this thing called?
this is a telegram, is that right?
A telegraph.
Telegraph.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the way that this works is it wasn't as sophisticated as maybe the phone in your pocket or a phone on your wall. This thing could communicate with different beeps. The way that you'd be able to tell what letter what letter you were sending was either by a short beep or a long beep. And you can actually tell the code right here. This is called Morse code. So let's try and send an A to whoever's on the other line of this telegraph. This is a short beep and then a long beep. So then whoever's reading it on the other side would know, based off the code, that I just sent them an A. And I could use all of these different patterns to send them a whole sentence, heck, even a whole paragraph based off this. And people who use the telegraph got pretty dang good.
Now, next thing I want to talk about is what family life might have looked like.
Yeah.
Over here, we actually have a recreation of one of the houses in historic Kyoto. And inside of it, you get to see all sorts of different stuff that people would have had in their houses and see some of the different life stuff they would have had to deal with.
Should we go
check it out?
Check it out?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go. Come on. Wow, they got a porch swing on the front, actually 2 porch swings, and then stepping right in. It's like the dining room is right here, got all their china cabinet right here, and then a bunch of cool stuff.
Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn you loose a little bit so you can go inside the barn. You can see some of the cool things that we've got in there.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting super excited. I was looking at this the whole time. So guys, it looks like we're stepping into a bit of a barn right here, and you can tell by the animals to my left. Hey look, it's a little cow. Maybe if I wanted to get some milk for my family, I would have to sit down right here on this stool. Hey, what's up, buddy? And excuse me, asked to get some milk. I'd be like, hey, is that all right with you if I get some milk? And then I just start, whoa. Based on pulling the udders, this is how you get the milk out. If I used all of this out, I could maybe fill up the whole bucket. Wow, guys, this is how people would get their milk way back in 1920s Colorado if they lived on a farm. You think about how you go to the store to buy some milk using your cereal. Maybe back then, you would probably have to get it straight from the source. That meaning a cow. But what's this to my right? This looks a lot about some of the stuff that they would use in the milk process. This looks like a milk jug, and then some more barrels right here. But what's that noise over here? It looks like my chickens have just laid their eggs. Guys, look. All these chickens right here. What's up, chickies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All my little chickadees right here are just doing their jobs, picking up and dropping off their eggs. Let's see if they left any ones for me. I do need some eggs. I'm thinking like I might want to eat some eggs and bacon tomorrow morning, and I got one right here. Let's go. Maybe if I get one more, I can eat 2 eggs. Oh my gosh, would you look at that? It just laid one just for me. And I think there's even some more extras right here. I'm getting 3, 4 eggs. Dude, I can eat bacon and eggs for the next 2 mornings. 2 tomorrow and 2 the day after.
So, 1920s, people are in Kyoto. It's a great time to be a farmer.
Yes.
But what did we learn about the 1930s?
Well, there was the Dust Bowl that happened in the 1930s, right?
Absolutely, right? It got super dry, super windy. It was hard to be a farmer.
Yeah.
Now, if we're in a town that's built on farming, what's going to happen to all those farmers?
They're not gonna have very much jobs to do.
No, absolutely. A lot of them ended up leaving. Not all of them got lucky like you did. A lot of them had to leave the farming life and head to big cities.
Yeah.
And Kyoto actually became what's called a ghost town.
Whoa.
Do you know what a ghost town is?
I think that means when everybody moves out of the town, but everything remains. It's kind of eerie. Feels like it's filled with ghosts instead of people.
Absolutely. Now, this happens a lot throughout Colorado's history. In fact, throughout Colorado, we've had more than 1,000 towns that have become ghost towns. Because somebody moved to a place to do a job, whether it was farming or being a lumberjack or being a miner or doing oil and gas, any number of different things. And then that industry just dried up and they had to go do something else.
Yeah, that's amazing. That pretty much says that so many times throughout Colorado's history, people have used up all their resources and had to move on to a different job in a bigger city. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, whenever we were up in Denver, A to Z, we learned a little bit about how there's different reasons that bring people to Denver, bring people to Colorado, and not all of those things are things that we're still doing.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we can learn from the past about how we've treated the land, how we've lived with it, and then learn to do better in the future.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I was a farmer back then, based on what I know now, I'd probably want to cycle my crops. I would also probably want to pay attention to what types of things I'm feeding and how that leads up the food chain and how that goes back to affect me. And then also take care of all the water that I'm using. So guys, we're back in the lobby of the History Colorado Center where we started our adventure today. We've learned a ton of cool stuff about the populations who have lived here all across history in what we now call Colorado. The History Colorado Center is free for all kids under 18. If you liked what you saw here today, you should totally come check it out. Big thanks to Petey the Penguin and Luke, our advisor, for showing us around today. This has been Willie Wanders signing off. I'll see you guys on our next adventure. See ya.
Did you like this video? I bet you loved it. Well, then you should like and subscribe to this channel so you can get all of our videos. Now, if you really, really love the video, check us out at getgoalie.com where you can subscribe to these with no ads. Can you believe that? No ads at all. Now, stay tuned for our next video. It's coming up right here. You can click on it.